Hello, Authentic Culture. Markeisha Chenoy here. I wanted to share a little bit about something that I think a lot of new Christians might be struggling with. Um, I believe a lot of new believers, when you're new in your walk with faith, you want to do what God is saying, but there comes a time where what God is calling you to do is going to be counterculture. There comes a time where you're going to have to choose, like, am I going to listen to God and be weird to everyone, or am I going to disobey God to please everyone else? These two verses that I have, I've been thinking about sharing this, and then these verses came up the other day, and I was like, okay, I think this is God telling me to just get on with it and do it. So I guess I want to start off by saying, who cares if you are weird? I know that sounds so funny, but I used to care so much about what people thought about me. I used to care so much and think like, oh no, that's going to be weird, especially my family. And it got to a point where I was like, you know what? Who cares? And I know I can say this boldly, and I can say this like because I really don't care unashamedly. I love Jesus and I'm here to please him, because when I die, I'm going to heaven and nowhere else. So that is my only concern. But I do know it is hard, and that is something that's easier said than done. So I wanted to share these two verses, and I wanted to kind of break them down a tiny bit and tell you, I guess, just encourage you that it's okay to be different. It's okay, because there's going to come a time where you're either following Christ or you're following culture, and you can't do both. The Bible says you can't have two masters, right? Okay, so I'm going to read, this is First John chapter 3 verse 1, and it says, "See what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God, and that is what we are. The reason the world does not know us is that it did not know him." So this verse, the world did not know him, right? So the reason the world does not know us, it's because the world does not know him. So we have to understand that when we are called to Christ, when we are called to God, we do things a little bit differently. We operate things a little bit differently. If you are not called to Christ, if you're not called to God, you're not going to operate things a little bit differently. Perfect example, if you grew up in this certain family, I don't know, let's say you grew up in another country outside of America, and let's just say a third world country, so you do things a little bit differently. I did not grow up there. So I would look at you and think, wow, you're very different. You're weird. Look at the customs that they do. Look at the things that they do that's different. It's because that's not what I grew up with. That's not what I see. And it's the same thing with us. When we have God, we follow his customs. We don't follow the world's customs. So we look weird or different. And even with just saying that, Peter tells us that we're peculiar people. We're just passerbyers. We're not permanent residences. So we have to understand that. We have to accept that. And we should take delight in that this is not our permanent home. So back to this verse, 1 John 3 1, it says, "The reason the world does not know us is that it does not know him." So, of course, to the world, of course, to people in the world are going to think you're different. Why would you spend time praying? Like, you pray more than 5 minutes? That's weird. You pray when nothing bad is happening. You pray when something good's happening. That's weird. You go to God for everything. It's okay to date this guy. He's a nice guy. Yes, he doesn't believe in God, but he's a nice guy. Who cares? You don't want to be single the rest of your life. We hear these types of things all the time, and that's such a bad way of thinking. We are not like this world, so we cannot think and operate like this world. And then that leads me to my next verse. It is John 8:47. It says, "Whoever belongs to God hears what God says. The reason you do not hear is that you do not belong to God." So we have to understand the reason people do not hear, it's because they don't belong to God. We have to understand that it's okay that you're different. It's okay that people are calling you out, that people are putting you in this, I don't know, this awkward position of like, I need to choose this or I need to choose that. Or your mind's telling you, like, oh, I shouldn't do this or I shouldn't do that, or I should do this or I should do that, but you're not sure. You're tormented or you're torn between the two. The reason is because you are different from the world. And like this verse just says, The reason you do not hear is that you do not belong to God. So if God has these lists, or God has these rules, or God has these commands, or whatever you want to call them, God has these things that we must follow, and someone does not know God, of course they're going to think you're different. Of course they're not going to hear these things, right? God's not going to talk to us if we don't hear him, right? So we have to understand that it is okay to be different, and you have to understand that it is okay because you're living in this world, but you're not to be of this world. So I hope this encouraged someone. I know it was quick. I just wanted to encourage someone that it's okay to be different. It's okay that you're not like this world, and it's okay that you're weird. Take it as a badge of honor, seriously. So I just wanted to share that really quickly. I hope this encouraged you. I hope this helped you out a tiny bit, and whatever you might be going through, just know that you are God's, so you hear God, and that's that. Bye.